Hey everyone, welcome to round 9 coverage of Tata Steel 2014. Levon Aronian's white, Karjakin is black, and this was a key game because Karjakin was the only player in striking distance. I think he was a half point behind Aronian at this point. What's cool about this position, it's move 16. Knight a4 was a game, Aronian versus Karjakin, in I think 2013, maybe in May sometime. There was a tournament in Norway that Karjakin won, and he beat Aronian in this position after knight a4. It wasn't really the opening's fault, but the point is they had already played these 16 moves against each other. Certain players don't like to repeat the same opening because they fear their opponent will have some preparation. Karjakin obviously is a very principled player, and it does not have that fear. And he just repeats it, move for move. At this point, though, Aronian played knight e2, which Leko had played against Karjakin, and it was a draw. And the game went like this. Bishop g5, bishop e7. Let me see when they diverged from that game. Okay, so white played knight f4, and in that game, black played the move knight to e4. Almost certainly Aronian had something prepared against this move. But this time, Karjakin did something different. He smelled a rat, perhaps, and decided to go queen to d6. White continued, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6. And now was the key moment. This is what I'm saying about Aronian's play in this tournament. His opening preparation was superb, and his technique. So, he kept finding ways to get tiny advantages in the opening. He wasn't crushing people, no checkmate attacks, nothing like that. Just tiny advantages. And he does it again with pawn takes pawn. Now, admittedly, black can defend here. After pawn takes, bishop takes. So white just won a pawn, and this knight is pinned. It turns out, however, after rook on a to d8, knight takes c6, bishop takes, queen takes, d5, queen to b7. White is gonna have trouble holding on to this pawn. Let's just say queen d3, for example, bishop e5, attacking the knight, and if white defends the pawn now, we've completely ruined the pawn structure. Worst case scenario. And after something like rook to d6, black has adequate compensation here. Maybe white's still a little better, but the rook is pretty nicely posted here. It's blockading the pawn. These pawns are weak. The king is weak. And the position is difficult for white to convert. In the game, however, and this is the tough thing about today's chess, with Houdini analysis, Aronian is probably super booked up in this position because he knows that there's a good chance Karjakin will play it. And he walked right into the same position and played the move bishop takes e5, which does leads to a tough position. After pawn takes, queen takes. Now, rook e1, queen to f6. Now you look at the position and you wonder, how bad should this be? Pawn structure is virtually identical. Black's pieces are pretty much developed. How can this be bad? The problem is this knight is pinned right now. And so after knight h5, queen to g4, it's hard for black to free his pieces. Because white has a tiny but lasting initiative. For example, if something like knight a5, we can always take and stick our rook on e7, and we just have a more active rook on the 7th rank. Is that enough to win? Maybe not, but it's not fun to defend that position against somebody of Aronian's level. Black goes for the queen trade instead. Played queen to g6. Now white could trade queens and does have a slight advantage there, but he thought his chances were better in the middle game. He played queen to h3. Rook a to d8. Knight f4, harassing the queen again. Queen to f6. Threatening checkmate and also freeing the d5 square for the knight. g6, knight to d5, and now was a pretty serious mistake. He should have went queen d6, but this is because Houdini told me. in a game it's hard to figure out exactly the best moves here. And now it's white to move. But there's a lot of good moves for white. Honestly, the position's just unpleasant because we just can't move this knight. Like, let's say, well, first of all, it's white to move. But in general, this knight is very difficult to move. White played a super simple move here. Just developed his rook to the open file. White's moves, the whole game have been very, very simple, but effective. If black tries to get out of this pin, just knight e7, takes, and bring the rook to the 7th rank. I think there's something better, but I can't really remember what it was. But this is pretty good for... This is obviously quite good for white. Oh, another possibility is simply rook c7 immediately. Because the rook and e4 can actually be useful in some attacking variations. But again, black just couldn't quite figure out what to do. And white has a lot of annoying threats here. Like, for example, simple one, rook takes c6. And after bishop takes, knight e7 check. So he just played king h8. Unfortunately, sorry, I just had to readjust my screen for various reasons. Unfortunately, after king to h8, what can white do here? It's relatively simple puzzle, but if you don't see it, pause your video, try to find it. He just took a pawn with knight takes b6 and bishop takes c6. So, I'm actually going to skip the rest of the game. His technique here was nice. I might skip to the end and just give you guys one more quiz, but this is what I'm talking about in this tournament, why his play was so impressive. He just got a simple position, no risk at all. Black never had any chance to win or do anything to white. And white just kind of slowly outplayed him and found ways to make his position stronger and stronger. And eventually black cracked. I mean, it's like Karpov or Carlsen at their best. I mean, just no danger. Every game he's had white so far, he's had a clear advantage in the sense where like his opponent just had no counterplay. Every single game. Just look at all of his white games, all the videos I made. He was just making them suffer from move one every single game. And black never had there's no way white could ever lose for a second in these games. And that's very hard to do, to win with that level of ease. It's kind of like how you see grandmasters beat much lower rated players. And he was doing this to the best guys in the world. And now he's up a pawn, and his technique was quite solid. I'm just going to jump forward a bunch of moves, because I like one moment at the end of the game. He slowly kind of tries to get his b-pawn rolling. He put his rook behind the pawn. Just real quick, you might have think that he wants to stop this pawn from going to h3 or h4 and play h4 himself. I think he was worried about rook b4. And white, every square that black can stop this pawn from moving forward gives black more space and takes some space away from white. So for that reason, I think he played queen d2 to make sure at least he's going to get that pawn to b4. Queen b2, now he gets to trade queens. This is not usually actually, when you have 4-on-3 with the passed pawn on the other side of the board, but your rook is behind the pawn, usually your winning chances are quite good. And let's just go forward a few moves here. So this position, if you want to test your technique some more, I would say solve this position, or not solve, figure out what you would do with white to move here. Pause your video, come up with a move. So alright, this is a really crucial position actually, and Aronian played it well. See, there's a danger here. We have this passed pawn, yes. However, it's very easy to be scared of this king infiltration, king g4 to h3, followed by king takes and some kind of passed pawn over here. Here's the key though. You have to realize this is not a threat. If you try to stop it, like something like this, he will take, and he'll go g4. If we go h4, then he will just go king e4 to f3, win this pawn, and get a lot of counterplay. If you take it, he'll take this pawn, and he'll get counterplay with his passed pawn. It actually is probably a draw at that point, because he'll sack the rook for this pawn, and then his pawn will be so far advanced that it will be a draw. The other option of f3, a similar thing, just take, and g4. By the way, I think I misspoke. And after f4, king e4 to f3. But after h3, another idea is just take, and king e4 to f3. It's another simple method for black to gain a lot of counterplay. Also, we could just start pushing the f-pawn there. So the key is you don't have time to waste with these f3, h3 moves, stopping the king from coming in or anything like that. The key move is simply just b4. It's possible that pawn takes pawn. Well, no. Pawn takes pawn is another possibility with the idea of h3, keeping the king out of g4, but then king to f4 to f3 to g2, followed by probably winning this pawn. The best move is just b4. Sometimes you have to realize when there's not a threat. After king g4, b5. King h3, and the point is this: as soon as the king comes to h3, we simply take, and when they take, we just move this pawn forward. f3 or f4 are both fine. He played f4. King to g4, and he actually just sacrificed the f-pawn. He didn't have to, but he did. f5 was played, king d4, king takes pawn. Now he played another nice technical move. Black is going to try to gain counterplay with king here to f3, pawn to f4, and get his king closer into white's position. Before doing anything active, cut the king off. I like this move a lot. Black actually played h3. The idea is the white rook can't take, because then black takes the b6 pawn. But white just went king to d5. And notice, by the way, a very important thing. He didn't go here. He wants to keep the king out. Because now black maybe could go king to e4 and start pushing this guy. Probably it doesn't work, but maybe. Who knows? So don't give him that option. King to d5 was played instead. King g4, king to c6, rook b8, and now just rook to g3. Now the rook is free defending the pawn, so it can roam around the board. b7, f4, rook to g7, and black resigned for the simple reason that black can make no progress. For instance, we get the pawn to f3. As soon as it goes to f2, white just puts the rook behind it. So, like, let's give an example. King here, take. If king h5, we just wait. If f2, we win the pawn immediately. So black just can't do anything. So a crystal clear performance from Aronian again. I mean, just like seamless play, like flawless almost. I mean, I'm exaggerating. Maybe all of his moves weren't perfect. But to handle guys like this without any danger, game after game with the white pieces, he's done it now 4 games in a row with white. He started off by doing it to Caruana, one of the best in the world, Nakamura, Karjakin, and then he did it to Wesley So in round 6, I think it was. So just all 4 games, like right out of the opening, clear advantage with no counterplay for his opponent. I mean, well, the way Carlsen does it is he doesn't get an advantage. He just has to make something happen at some point later in the game. Aronian just gets it right away. I mean, it looks easier that way. So I mean, he's giving me a lot of hope that he can at least put up a fight against Carlsen. The thing is, however, Aronian's opening prep is very good. You can't prepare against Carlsen. That's taken out of the equation because Carlsen just plays whatever the hell he feels like. So it's a problem. It's a problem for Aronian because he's going to just have to play chess, which probably Carlsen still has the edge in just some random chess position. Anyway, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with round 10. Aronian is now 7 out of 9. Bye-bye.